All right, hi, I'm Pfenning along with Alex Molden. We're here doing Oregon Football League Weekly. We're headed in for week 5 of the league season. Having a great time watching it. Last week it was in outside of Roseburg, out Myrtle Creek. Actually, it's even outside Myrtle Creek. They got a suburb in Myrtle Creek, Tri-City, which was there for the Umpqua Valley game against Klamath. Good time. Got to see I don't want to call it a cow pasture for a field because I don't want to insult the people down there, but it was a very chewed up field that had a lot of mud. So yeah, it was a good time to see a lot of mud in the field, lots of dirty jerseys. Anyway, I thought we'd get right into the players of the week this week. On offense, we got Brandon Victor, his quarterback for the Vancouver Vipers. Pulled off a outstanding game, 27 of 51 passing for 440 yards and 5 touchdowns. Vancouver went down to Medford, beat the Road Warriors 39-31. Pretty good game for a team that wasn't passing the ball very well. The one downside of all that passing, they only made 3 extra points.
3 extra points. Oh, man. Oh, okay.
So he had to score all those touchdowns because the rogue team, they scored 31, didn't miss any extra points. So, but that's our offensive player of the week. On defense.
Yeah, defense, we got Mike Riffenbart from the Umpqua Valley Knights. Yeah, he plays outside linebacker. He had 15 tackles, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, and 2 fumble recoveries in a 22-14 win over Klamath Falls.
So yeah, that's what I was there at the game. Didn't quite realize it was the same guy all over the place, but I know they had a lot of sacks. They defensively did a really strong job within like 2 possessions. So league-wise, Portland's up there at 4-0. Umpqua Valley, they're 3-1. Although all the games have been at home, now they get to go on the road for a bunch of games. Vancouver, the Road Warriors, Klamath, and Oregon, the Outlaws, they're all stuck down there at 2-2. They're all tied for 3rd place. That's 6 teams involved for 4 playoff spots. So we got some pretty entertaining games coming up. The game I'm going to be at is Oregon at Vancouver. They're both hot. We both won 2 games in a row. Umpqua Valley's at High Desert. Road plays down at Klamath. Big Southern Oregon battle. And Portland's at the Springfield Buzzards. They're having a little struggle trying to score and get some points on the board. So I thought I'd talk to Alex today about we got wonderful stats here for that's how you pick your player of the week. Now stats, you were involved in college pro from the 90s through the mid 2000s. How did stats evolve from when you started to when you ended? I mean, they used to just have pass completions, but now they have, passer ratings and everything.
They got YAC, which is yards after completion.
Did they have that when you started?
They did. They did have the YAC, but it was something that was mostly internal between the coaches and the other coaches. When they break down the film, they want to basically look about how can we stop a certain receiver? How do we stop Dre Rice? Okay, well we got to stop because he is going to catch the ball. Once he catches it, we got to tackle him because his yards after completion was huge. That's where he really made his money. With that West Coast offense, short passes, long runs. So, but you know what? There's stats that have really came along after when I first started back in '96. Coaches, what they do in the off season is they break down film in the NFL. They break down film just to see exactly what players are helping them, what are hindering them, or which ones are hindering them. So
forced fumbles. There's one that's just come about like recently. Fumble recoveries, they have that, but now you're forcing the fumble for somebody else to recover. That seems like that is a recent thing.
And that's that's been around for a while. It just it's not the big glamorous type of stat, but you want your guys going after the ball. Ray Lewis, all right, from the Baltimore Ravens. He's huge at getting after the ball carrier and the ball. Because you can be great and all that, but it's all about the defense taking the ball away. So you got stats like that. You got stats that if you're a defensive back, how many passes are completed on you. Okay, so you want to have a low completion percentage when teams are passing at you, when it's man-to-man, or when you're in zone coverage.
Or when teams are throwing the ball at you.
Yes, yeah, exactly. When they're throwing the ball at you, you want to be able to, either make them pay the price, getting that interception, or deflecting the ball away.
But that's a stat they keep now too, is how many passes. So there's, I'm looking at that thinking, if you're doing your job really well, then you're not getting thrown at very often. So you're throwing. I mean, that's a stat, and the biggest thing about stats is who pays attention to those. Coaches in other teams, but fans really pay attention to that. So, like, you know, the draft is coming up here, so you look, okay, here's somebody who's got, you know, 10, 15 interceptions, but maybe that's because he's getting thrown at all the time.
That's what used to happen. You know, if you look at teams which have a dominant defensive, like a dominant corner. Back in the 90s, it was Eric Allen on the Philadelphia Eagles. You see him versus, you know, the other corner, other side. I mean, the other guy got a ton of action, you know, and he was making plays, getting interceptions, but also he was letting a lot of passing go. But on the flip side with Eric, he might have got the ball thrown 2 or 3 times, you know, his way. And you look the same thing with Deion Sanders or Champ Bailey. They don't get a whole bunch of action, but when they do, they're making the quarterback pay.
So how much, as a player, how much did you watch your stats and say, well, I haven't gotten an interception for a little while. I really got to push myself to get that.
Cornerback is unique, where it's either feast or famine. You want to be quiet, okay? Because you know, if you're quiet, you're having a good day. Right? If you're loud, then you're starting to, you know, you're either making plays, which is good, or you're getting the ball thrown against you, and they're getting a lot of completions, which makes the crowd go loud. So you want to be, you know, stats isn't really a huge thing playing cornerback. Everywhere else, you know, you're fighting to get the tackles and all that. DBs, we don't want tackles.
So when the draft comes along, those are guys who are there to take your job. How did you look at the draft?
It's fun. It's fun. You know, when you're being drafted, of course. You know, I was lucky enough to be invited to New York and, you know, experience the whole deal, you know, with the draft. But the years after that, like, let's say my 7th year, I was with the Chargers, right? And so at that time, you're a veteran and whatnot, and I just came off an injury. And you're looking at the draft on a totally different spectrum, okay? Not the young guys, like, just, you know, and the fans are, you know, excited about who's coming in and, you know, who's going to, you know, make your team better. I was on the opposite side, where I was like, oh, please don't pick a cornerback. Please don't pick a cornerback. Oh, they picked a corner. Oh, man. Let me call my realtor and start getting stuff ready, because we're going to get shipped off or traded or whatnot. Yes, it's you know, you don't want that to happen. Sooner or later, it will. You know, because they want youth. They want, you know, more speed, and sometimes the experience starts to level off with athleticism. You know.
That every once in a while, payroll too.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Okay, so here's my spring football thing. I guess this really is the last thing, but still, just not so over the USFL when I was in high school. Here's one of my shirts that I went and sent off from an actual team, and it got a little bit of usage. It's from the Michigan Panthers. That's
Panthers.
Yeah, that's the league champion team from the very first season, and they beat the Philadelphia Stars in the championship game. I believe it was Billy Joe Hebert as the quarterback, and yeah, still remember a ton of stuff from that league. So anyway, a ton of fun. All right, I'm Pfenning, Alex Molden, and we'll talk at you next week.